Among all the legendary stories and deeds of King David, the one that undoubtedly echoes through the centuries is the iconic confrontation with Goliath, the fearsome Philistine giant. A battle that not only marked the life of the young shepherd anointed to reign, but also shaped the destiny of Israel as a victorious nation over its enemies. But what if I told you this story was only told halfway? What few know is that Goliath was not the only giant David faced. In fact, he had to confront other colossal warriors descended from the same Nephilim lineage. Among them was a giant who was Goliath's own brother, a monstrous being who came dangerously close to killing David. Why were these details omitted from most accounts? What does this story reveal about the presence of giants in ancient times? There is much more behind this narrative than we were taught. If you want to uncover this hidden truth, stay with me in this video. Leave a like, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel, because what we're going to reveal here may completely change your view of biblical events and the history of humanity itself. Among the many defining moments in David's life, his rise to the throne may be the most surprising. From humble beginnings, he was just a young shepherd from the tribe of Judah, the son of Jesse, a direct descendant of the royal lineage of Judah. However, against all odds, he was chosen by God to become the king of Israel, replacing Saul, whose reign had been compromised by disobedience and a fall from divine favor. David was not only a shepherd, he was also a talented musician and poet, whose compositions would be immortalized in the Psalms. But his destiny went far beyond music. He would become not only a king, but the greatest ruler Israel had ever known, a man after God's own heart. His journey was marked by challenges, wars, and victories that shaped the history of the Israelite nation. Among the many battles he faced, none was as emblematic as his confrontation with Goliath. David, then a young man between 15 and 17 years old, without military training, dared to face a warrior feared by all. A Philistine giant who terrorized the armies of Israel. With a sling and 5 stones, he defeated the fearsome Goliath, proving that faith and courage can overcome any obstacle. This giant who spread terror among the Israelites. What made him so feared? His enormous height, superhuman strength, and combat skills made him virtually unbeatable. However, his mystery went beyond his brutality. Goliath belonged to an ancient and enigmatic lineage, the Rephaim, a race of giants mentioned in scriptures and historical accounts. What many don't know is that Goliath was not alone. He was just one of many giants that still existed at the time, brothers and relatives who shared the same mysterious origin. From the days of Moses, and even in the times of Abraham, the Rephaim were known for their imposing presence and impact on the battles fought in the Promised Land. Goliath's defeat by David was not just a personal victory. It was a milestone in the conflict between the Israelites and these legendary beings, forever changing the course of history. The origin of the giants has always been an enigma, surrounded by mystery and speculation. However, there is a consensus among many scholars of the scriptures. These colossal beings likely emerged after the flood, the result of a forbidden union between fallen angels and human women. These celestial entities, known as the B'nai Elohim, descended to earth and took for themselves the daughters of men, creating a hybrid lineage of extraordinary beings. Giants who spread terror and domination across the earth. The very term Rephaim carries a dark connotation. In Hebrew and Phoenician, it can be translated as the dead, the living dead, or ancestral spirits, suggesting that these beings were somehow connected to ancient entities that perished in the flood, but mysteriously reappeared in the post-flood world. Some ancient accounts indicate that these giants were not only brutal warriors but also possessed advanced knowledge and supernatural abilities, reinforcing the belief that their origin went beyond mere human descent. The Bible makes it clear that Goliath was not an isolated case. He was part of a larger lineage, and he had brothers who shared the same nefarious origin. After his death at the hands of David, his brothers swore revenge against the young king of Israel. In one of the many battles between the Israelites and the Philistines, one of these giants attempted to exact that revenge, putting David in great danger, an event that nearly cost him his life, if not for the intervention of his loyal warriors. These giants were not mere mercenaries used by the Philistines. Their presence on the battlefield revealed something much deeper. They had strategic alliances with certain peoples of the time, such as the Ionians and the Canaanites, who not only accepted them into their ranks but revered them as deities or superior beings. In many ancient cultures, these colossal figures were worshipped and feared, seen as demigods or descendants of primordial entities. Thus, the conflicts between Israel and these peoples went beyond mere territorial disputes. They were spiritual battles between the chosen people of God and forces of obscure origin, whose roots traced back to pre-flood times. Now, I invite you to follow one of the most impactful moments in David's journey. An episode often overlooked, but that highlights not only the weight of the battles he fought, but also the legacy of the giants who continued to threaten Israel. In the book of 2 Samuel 21 verses 15 to 22, we find the account of a dangerous confrontation involving one of Goliath's descendants. After years of reign and numerous wars, David, now elderly, led another battle against the Philistines. However, this time something different happened. The king felt the weight of age and war pressing down on him. At the height of combat, an imposing warrior named ISB Benob appeared on the battlefield. He was no ordinary soldier. He belonged to the lineage of the Rephaim, the same as Goliath. With a bronze spear weighing about 13 pounds and wielding a newly forged sword, he saw his chance to avenge his brother and end the life of the king of Israel once and for all. David, exhausted and vulnerable, was at the mercy of death. But it was at this crucial moment that Abishai, son of Zerah and David's nephew, intervened. With a precise strike, he brought down ISB Benob, saving the king from a fatal fate. In light of this event, David's soldiers made a solemn vow. They would never again allow him to return to the battlefield, for he was the lamp of Israel, and his loss would be irreplaceable. However, the threat of the giants had not yet ended. Soon after, a new war against the Philistines broke out, resulting in the death of another giant, Saph. Then another battle took place at Gob, where Elhanan, son of Jehoiakim, defeated another formidable warrior, identified as Goliath the Gittite. But there was one more challenge. In another battle fought at Gath, a warrior of impressive stature, who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, challenged Israel. He was slain by Jonathan, the son of Shimea, David's brother. These 4 were born to the giant in Gath, and fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants. 2 Samuel 21 verse 22. Thus, we see that the threat of the giants persisted, but one by one, they were defeated. The God of Israel continued to show that it was not the strength of giants that determined victory, but the faith and courage of those who trusted in him. These events reveal a surprising truth. Goliath was not an exception in his lineage. His brothers continued to challenge Israel even after his death. The presence of these giants in biblical accounts suggests that they represented a persistent threat, and their battles with God's people hold mysteries that remain little explored. Few know the full story of these colossi from antiquity, and there is still much to be uncovered about the 5 brothers of Goliath, their connection with the Rephaim, and the true significance of this lineage in ancient times. Who were these giants? Where did they come from? How did they perpetuate through the ages? If you want to understand more about each of them, and the enigmas surrounding their origin, stay tuned. I will soon bring you a detailed analysis of this almost forgotten lineage and their battles against Israel.